Casker's has been working with the tarp this time. So before I bring in the tarp, we are doing a little review of the pool float, like the little plastic thing, and you just can't really see it. You can see it there where it's kind of flying up a little bit. It's windy and colder this day, so he's already been introduced to it, and I forgot to mention on the last video that it's important to introduce like the tarp or any kind of plastic on a day where it's not windy because you don't want that added movement in there, especially if your horse is worried about it. So he's already been introduced to it, he already understands it. And now I just put some more treats on it and it's kind of blowing up in his face a little bit. It's hard because it's right on that top rung of the round pen there. But he's pawing it a little bit, but he did great. Like it blew around in the wind and he was doing great. So, um, but it's important to not add too many things at once, especially in the beginning. But he went ahead and walked over it, and then I'm going to grab it here and start moving around, and then we'll introduce the tarp a bit. So it was just right there. It's just kind of in the perfect spot where you can't see it. So, but I'm just gonna kind of let the wind take it a little bit and let him see it. And he's pretty relaxed. You can kind of see him like right through the plastic there, but he's curious. He's looking at it. He doesn't have a high head and neck carriage, so all great things. Like to see all of that stuff. So he's really progressing well. And I'll hold it up a little bit, kind of let the wind take it a little bit. And if he was a little bit more on the weary side, I would do this, but with it blowing away from him, not at him, because it's just less scary in the beginning. So that's just something to think about. And he was a little bit worried about it blowing on the fence, and I do have footage of that in another video just because it's scarier when it's blowing and then it's like above their eye level, so you're just adding all these things to it. So that's why I break it down in the beginning. They see just it, and then they see it moving, and then they see it above their eye level and it's moving. So it's like you don't want to compound too many things at once. So just gonna fold that out, and we'll go ahead and get the tarp out. And he's already, it helps that that pull flow is very similar to this, but it's like a little baby step. It's baby step between the plastic and the actual tarp. So I'm again folded up the tarp and I'm just going to throw some treats on there and let him explore it. And he should transition to this pretty seamlessly. If he's a lot more worried, it's probably because it's moving a lot and it might be making a different sound, or you've just gone too far and you go back. And that might mean folding the tarp up more, that might mean creating more distance between it and your horse, or going back to a smaller piece of plastic like the pool float or like a plastic bag. It just kind of depends, depending on your horse's reaction and all this other stuff. So I'm just gonna let him eat his treats off of the tarp right here and let him just hang out because I really like this method of just letting him explore on his own. And it's basically a food bowl. Like, horses aren't afraid of their food bowls, so make as many things as you can into food bowls. Now, the exception to that would be if they're already afraid of it. So if he saw this, maybe he was out in this field and it blew in, and he sees it from a distance and he's already afraid and he's over threshold. He's got his head up and he's snorting and his eyes are wide and he's afraid. It's not going to help him to go and have me put food on it because he's too afraid to even approach it. So at that point, you're working on approaching first, and then you're going to work on like him touching it and then eating off of it. So depending on your level of fear, you have to just work on the horse looking at it and then approaching it and then so on. So that is important though. So now I've kind of unfurled it a little bit. It's kind of blowing around in the wind. So I know that it's not ideal to have it blowing for their first time, but since he's done so well with all the other plastics and things, I'm not that worried about it. This is a pretty heavy duty tarp. It's not going to blow a whole lot. I can like kick some dirt on the edges, or my round pen's just dirt, but like if it's in the arena, I could put some sand on it so it's not moving as much. But just overall, with how he's taken this whole thing, he's not too worried about it. If your horse might be a little bit more worried about it, then I would make sure that you could wait for a day where it's not windy or be able to put some sand or something like that. So a couple other things, make sure that the tarp doesn't have like holes in it, get their legs stuck in there. You don't want that. You don't want it chasing them and you having a wreck. Same thing for a horse that has shoes. Be very careful that it's not going to like get stuck on them in any way. There's no holes, there's nothing to be caught on. We don't want that. So, and you're in a safe environment. So I know that I had sand in the arena, or yes, but I have the round pen panel. So if or something were to happen and that he got caught on it, he'd have the panels and he wouldn't escape. So overall, great time with the tarp.